Hello everyone, welcome to Crow Canyon Software's webinar on NITRO Studio, using NITRO Studio for SharePoint success. I'm Scott Restivo, CEO and founder of Crow Canyon Software. We have come up with this NITRO Studio from our work with building SharePoint and Office 365 applications for many years. We build applications, and you see from our website we have quite a few. We have help desk, asset management, work orders, customer service, contract management, onboarding, HR type programs, all these variety of ready to go applications out of the box. They're all built on top of NITRO Studio. So what I wanted to show in this first slide is the NITRO layer and explain how it fits into the whole scenario. I'm not going to go through a whole bunch of PowerPoints and all that stuff. I'm just going to show you this slide and get right into what NITRO can do so that we can jump right into it. And by the way, if you have any questions, you can put them into the question screen there on the webinar, and we'll try and answer them either during the webinar or after. And also I'm going to be a little promoting of the nitro.studio website where you can see some more information and also get sign up for a download, a trial. Okay, so it seems like most of the people have arrived by now, so I'm just going to jump right into it and explain this picture here that you see on the screen about Crow Canyon's NITRO layer, NITRO Studio. This shows in some visual way what we're doing here. So you have SharePoint and Office 365. Now it could be SharePoint on premises, SharePoint 2013, 2016, and soon 2019, or it can be Office 365, SharePoint Online in Office 365. And as we went through our development efforts, we found that the capabilities out of the box of SharePoint were not enough to really be a business process automation platform. It needed a number of enhancements. Of course, it has some things to begin with. The list, libraries, permissions, integration with Active Directory, sites, site collections, the whole structure. But on top of that, we found we needed to add three elements, three main factors here: UI, UX. We needed to improve the UI, UX, the user interface, user experience. We needed to add workflows and processes and reporting and analytics. And what these do is the UI and UX works to empower and engage users. And we'll show you the forms, the portal. I mean, I will in a few minutes. And that empowers and engages users so that they have a better experience with SharePoint, with the application. The user adoption rises. And of course, if people aren't using the application, it's obviously not going to be a very successful implementation. So that's a very important factor, the UI, UX. Next is the workflows and processes, and that's kind of the heart of the whole application, is how are the processes going to work? What approvals are needed? How is the request, complaint, issue, problem, whatever, routed through? And that's a whole world in itself. And then reporting and analytics comes as you look back on top of the, back at the application, back at the process you implemented, and say, where can we make it more efficient? How can we improve its operation? What can we do to drive continuous cycle of improvement so that the requests are handled more efficiently and more effectively? Now, we're talking about this NITRO layer on top of SharePoint and Office 365. This may be a new or old, depending on your experience, but some people are working in paper forms, paper forms, spreadsheets, emails, those kind of legacy programs, including even InfoPath, Lotus Notes, Access. All those things can be done through our forms, workflows, and processes. They can be converted over to a more modern, mobile-friendly, cloud-based application using the NITRO layer. And from this NITRO layer comes our applications, which those ready to go at once I talked about, and also our custom development projects come out of that also. Now, one other addition with the NITRO Studio that we have now is this custom development can be done by you without the need to know C# and deep level of JavaScript, any level really of JavaScript or programming. It's all done what we call low code or no code, citizen developers, all kinds of words for it. But I think citizen developer seems to be the one that's making the rounds right now. So you can come in and just make it. Now let's go jump right into NITRO Studio. I don't want to belabor this or bore people with a bunch of slides. So I'm gonna go right into the studio itself. So get me rid of this PowerPoint. Okay, so in this webinar, I'm taking a little different approach than some of the others. Some of the others I've shown NITRO Studio, the Forms Designer, the workflow and all that, and that's good and worth a time to do. But also this one, I'm gonna look at what can NITRO do? What does it actually produce as an application? And that's what we'll delve into here. Now, any of you can contact us anytime, sales@crowcanyon.com, or email me directly, scottar@crowcanyon.com. Doesn't matter. We'll be able to set up a Nitro demo with you one-on-one, and you can talk directly to us about what your needs are and answer your questions. But in this case, a webinar is kind of me talking, and well, you can ask questions through the interface there, but I'll cover what I can. Hopefully I'll cover most of your questions here. So we have a application here for this imaginary glue company, and it's a customer service application. So I want to show you how Nitro comes into play here and what it produces. First of all, we have a dashboard with tiles and dials. That's one of Nitro's elements, tiles and dials. We have this workspace. You can configure this any way you want with using the elements of SharePoint. But most important is what is the list of tickets here? Okay, here's the list of tickets. In this case, it's complaints, issues, questions, inquiries, whatever needed from this. Customers and employees of this company are entering in problems, and they have to be managed in a way that so the company can know what is working and what is not working, get this process moving through to where engineers may have to fix something, or marketing may need to do something, or there's some kind of customer service response. Something needs to be done because things are not working right. Glue bottles are being misprinted, or the glue's not sticking, or the tubes are leaking. Whatever it is, someone has entered this problem in, this question, this complaint, and now it has to be taken through to resolution. And NITRO Studio is what powers this whole application. So here we have a conditional formatting in the classic SharePoint view, where you're seeing some list of tickets in a slightly more engaging way for the end users, for the people who are on staff looking at it. So you see that there's, high priority, and it's in color yellow and all this. So that's our conditional formatting. But more important is, what does the form look like? So we've created a form in NITRO Forms that is handling the information. Now, before I go into that, I want to also say this. When you're dealing with customers or employees, you don't have to present this interface to them in our system. This interface right here is a SharePoint interface meant in our applications mostly for the back-end people who are working the complaints, issues, problems, questions, or whatever. They get it. It comes in, they're notified through our notification mechanisms. They come here and start working on them. But for the person entering the ticket in the first place, they want a simpler, easier way to do it. So they can send an email, of course, but we also offer this portal. So this is our portal part of NITRO Studio. There is a portal that you can configure, highly configurable portal that you can present to your end users or your customers or your accounts or clients or members, whatever people you're dealing with, citizens if you're in government. And you can put your own logos, your own colors. You can make your own little boxes here. You can have the ticket look a certain way. They can view the knowledge base, FAQs. And if you're an admin, you go in with the portal settings and monkey around with this all you want. This is what we mean about low-code citizen developer. You can come in here, and you can change the logo. You can change whatever the title here, the footer, the menu, the background image, and all these other areas allow you to set up how the forms and everything, how you want it to be. So let's not get stuck on what this actually looks like in terms of the colors and graphics that are here and the verbiage that's here particularly. Let's just understand that this makes a nice, easier, engaging, and empowering way for users to come in, as well as, and this is important, HIPAA, HR, financial. This site here that they're engaging with, your end users or customers, is isolated from the back end that I was looking at a moment ago in terms of security. So you have its own site with its own security that's giving the person the ability to submit a ticket according to what form you want to present to them. They can view their existing tickets through this form, through opening it up and seeing their tickets. They can sort and group according to how they want, see the status, but they're not looking directly in the back end and having access to everybody else's tickets and everybody other complaints and all that kind of stuff. They're able to engage with the system through this portal, application portal we call it, submit new tickets, view knowledge base articles that you put there, search through the knowledge base articles, and any other information you want to put on this portal site. It's a web page, put what you want on it. Make it, sometimes it could be documents and other service catalogs and things like that. So you have this engaging interface with the end users or your customers, whomever, and they're able to interact with the application this way. and it is drawing in information from the KB in the back end, from the tickets in the back end, from the submissions that the person made in the back end. And one other aspect of this is you can create 2 levels of accounts. Say you have a company that is entering in tickets, and that company manager can see all the tickets for that company. And you also have individual level where the person is only sees his or her ticket. So say you're the manager of Bob's Woodworking Shop, you could see all the tickets for Bob's Woodworking Shop set by permissions. But if you're Magnus Erickson, maybe you only see Magnus Erickson only sees his own tickets right there that he submitted. So you can vary a lot of variety, a lot of ways to configure this, not only the aspects of the UI and interface, but also the aspects of who sees what tickets in terms of keeping that isolation and security and engagement with the users in the ways that are most effective for your organization with the flexibility in our portal settings here. So we go back to this homepage here of the portal. It's FAQs, you can have notifications here, you can add other elements on here. You also have these tiles which will open up a particular issue, problem, whatever that is specific. Of course, this is highly configurable to what your needs are. You can put more tiles, more colors, you can change the images here, you can do a different layout. In the portal settings, there's quite a number of ways to configure the layout of this, layout and verbiage and imagery on this portal. So I wanted to point that out, that when we go to this back end here and look at all the tickets, this is after the ticket's been submitted, and now the staff is looking at this more, I would say, complex back end, because there's a lot more they have to do with it in order to engage and resolve the problem. Now, whenever a ticket is created through email, through the portal, through this interface right here, a number of actions are kicked off through our workflow manager. Our workflow manager will say, a ticket's been created. What do you want to do? Well, you can notify the user, auto reply. You can notify certain staff based on certain criteria and condition. You can set a set of approval processes in action and other workflows in action. You can create additional subtasks. You can do many things. You can set the priority and the due date and response to whatever you want to do and whatever's necessary inside your processing. So let's look at the form itself. So I have that up here. Here's that form. Glue bottle labels are misprinted. So now we have a NITRO form right here. See, quite different than the standard out-of-the-box SharePoint form, highly configurable in the back end. You can have different tabs here with different information. You can put whatever you want on them. There can be one column, there can be here 2 columns. You can have the labels on top. You can have this label email history, above the grid. You can do many ways of configuring this form, and I'll go into that a little bit later in this webinar into the forms designer itself and show you how that actually functions and how easy it is to make those changes. You can set up what different automatic actions, custom actions you want here in your list ribbon, your item ribbon. We have a print manager that will decide how you want to print this out. You can set up tasks like automated actions like close the ticket, assign it, generate a document if you wanted, escalate, send it up someplace to another. In this case, it might be, we have to forward this over to engineering because we don't know why the labels are misprinted. So we have to find out the cause, and maybe that will generate a task to the people who manage the labeling machine, and they have to readjust the mechanism on that. The idea is to get some real business functionality out of your application, right? Why else do it? So you want to get real business functionality out of this application, and this is the way to do it, is have these actions, record the information, have actions that can be taken, drive the request forward to conclusion so that the request is fulfilled or the issue is resolved or the complaint is resolved. It may even be a complaint that is like this is from an account and a contact, but if it's a consumer here, we might want to go here and look at a consumer complaint and then send this guy issue a refund. It's just an example. I mean, this whole process can be adapted, of course, for your particular needs. I mean, we're just using this as an example. But this guy, Bob Jones, has caulk tube is hardened. Well, let's put an action up here that says issue refund or issue voucher, whatever. So that would go to some customer service or financial thing, and they would get a task there that says send Bob Jones, call him up or send him or email him or send by mail, whatever the process is, that refund. And then this would be marked resolved as refund sent to the guy, that kind of thing. So this is all the kind of really interesting actions you can do here. So instead of escalate, in this case, we might have issue refund up here on the form. What these buttons do, and behind the scenes in our NITRO Studio, we are defining what these buttons do. We being you, are defining what these functions do, and then they will perform a series of actions simply by clicking the button. So you could have this one escalate, I believe, it says set the priority to high, reassign it to someone else, send an email to somebody. So, you can take that action right here. If somebody calls up, say Bob Jones called up and say, hey, I haven't heard from you from days. I'm kind of irritated. I'm going to buy the other guy's glue. You're like, hey, wait a minute, Bob. Hold on. We're going to issue a refund right now. You go here, issue the refund, and the process starts, and the customer's theoretically more happier about your instantaneous response to his question, because you have all the information right here and ready to take action on it as needed. Now, that is our custom actions through the form designer. Now, what is harder to show you is that the workflows happen as certain events take place. And I'll mention that there's certain triggers, and items created, items modified, status is changed or it's closed, a certain due date. Say the due date is, there's no due date, but say the due date's like here. This one's obviously passed, but say the due date was 2 days from now. You can send out an email right now to the person it's assigned to, Pavan, and say, hey, Pavan, this needs to be dealt with. It's high priority. That would happen automatically through our workflow manager. So you can either do custom actions, escalate it immediately, or you can do a workflow manager and escalate it according to a certain time factor on the ticket itself, such as 2 days before. So all kinds of interesting things you can do to really adapt this to your process as required. It could be a simple application. It could be a complex application. Let me go back to this form and open up a new one and show you some of the interesting characteristics of the form so that we can show that it's, not just tabbing and sections. I mean, everybody and their brother does tabbing, I guess, but, there's a lot more going on here. See, it says account tab here. Well, you go to consumer. Now it's a consumer. It changed over to, it dynamically changed the tab. Now, this could also work for sections in here. Say, if you change the consumer, you want certain sections to change here. You could do it without changing the tab or section. You could do it by just having certain fields appear or disappear. You can also require certain data to be put in here. Not only require it, that's that little red asterisk, but you can also require that, say, the email has a particular structure of, name at domain.com, whatever the regular expression that does that. But you could do email validation. You can also do member validation and things like that. Say member number has to be 3-2-1-4, like a social security number or something. So that can go in here and say validate that that is a valid entry. You can also do stuff. Well, let's look at this. If I go back to the account, and here I choose an account, and we'll go to Bob's Woodworking Shop again. We choose, this is cascaded lookups going on right here. We choose Magnus, and we have auto-filled his information here, his email and phone automatically. This could be done, whatever information. It doesn't, you could choose an asset here and it'd fill in information about the asset ID. You could choose whatever you want for the cascaded lookup, and you got all this other information coming in from the record of Magnus Ericsson's coming into this form here, according to what you configured in our utilities. And here's another example of cascaded lookup. You have different, depends what you choose in the parent is what shows up below it. Pretty common, but that's nothing in billing right now. Okay, let's go over to freight, and there's freight issues right here, overcharges, this kind of thing. So you can have cascaded lookup. Also, back up here in the contact, we have a search capability, so you can go search for people. If you had a long list of people you want to search, maybe you don't want to put 100 people in this contact list. I don't know. A lot of capabilities like this. Also, this right here is being automatically filled in because we know who you are. We know who you are. No, the system knows who you're logged in as. It says admin account. And because it's the admin account, it's pulling information in from the SharePoint profiles or Active Directory to put in the information here. So we know that this was filled out by the admin account, which is what I'm logged in as right now. So additional information has the same idea where you have a brand of the sticky glue and you have the different products of sticky glue, or you have the Floor Master and you have different products of Floor Master. And then you get where purchased, lot number, order number, all these things. If the consumer is willing to read the little fine print on the bottle, and what's it say, lot number, something or other, if you can get that from them, you can do it. More likely in accounts, you'd get the big barrel of glue, and they'd be able to say, okay, that was supposed to be delivered, and all that stuff. So there's a lot you can do with gathering information that way. Then of course you're going to assign it to somebody, a team, this kind of a team, or you can assign it to an individual person. But rather than dig into the particulars of this application, we're focusing on NITRO Studio elements that add to this. So we pointed out the dynamic forms. I pointed out the cascade lookup, the autofill, the user profile filling here that goes on the form, the way you can do tabs, you can do sections, you can do all kinds of things. You can go over to related items and have a bunch of tasks related to this particular activity. Well, this is a new item, so there's none yet. But if we went into an existing one, I'm just not even sure if this has any associated tasks on it, but if it does, we'd see them right here. And we know that these associated tasks, yeah, check with engineering on this, investigations. So you're tracking time, tasks, whatever other things you want to track in relation to this question, problem, issue, you can. It doesn't have to be tasks. It could be tasks. It could be documents. It could be contracts, manuals. It could be other, you could have it like where engineering has a ticket and this has a ticket and they're correlated to each other. You have email history, all kinds of fun stuff going on here. And you can do things with our workflows. We'll say this, when all these tasks are closed, update this ticket or close this ticket. This kind of parent-child interaction that you can have going on there. A lot of capabilities inside that NITRO Studio. Now, I will switch over to show you the NITRO Studio itself, but like I said, I'm trying to show more of the functionality so you can see what it actually can do and get excited about its possibility. So here we go with the some of the actions up here, like printing. You can go here and print, and you can have a print template. And you have the template of a ticket template, and now you can design this template quite nicely inside your template, inside the print manager utility. Put a image or logo up there and kind of get it going like this. So it comes something like a form that could be printed out and sent. It could be an invoice, a quote or something, or just a work order. So you can set it up like that. Also, you can email out from here with our Croquet email manager. And you set some of this up in our manager app where the defaults, who it's from, where it's to. You can include attachments. But here's the interesting part here. You can set up a series of templates that are canned messages. So maybe you want to send a canned message out to people. You have it all set up. It's going to go change the dear consumer, and it has different placeholders for different values that are coming from the form into here. And you could send it out, escalation email, you can escalate it, you want to send them a link to the ticket, I don't know. This kind of thing, you can set up all these canned messages that can go out from here just by simply clicking the email button up here. And these are configurable also up here as to what you want to do. Okay, I covered a lot of that on the form. So I think what I'll do now is go over to the studio itself. Before I do that, I'm going to also show you the report center. So we can see that we have a reporting going on here. So the report center here will show you different reports, how many tickets by brand, how many incoming tickets this month, by month, a lot in January for some reason, lower. So you see these trends, and you can manage all that in our back-end report manager. But once the report's here, you can export it to PDF, you can save it as an image, you can email it, print it. You can also we also now have scheduling reports where you can schedule a report to go out every morning, every week, every Monday. I don't know. You also come here and do real-time filtering and say, I only want to show certain elements, certain dates, and you can go into advanced and then said, I only want to see certain kinds of, such as category X or brand X or whatever, brand, like the Floormaster brand. Show me only the tickets for the Floormaster brand, and it'll do it in real time and sort that and filter that. You'd only see the tickets for the Floormaster brand, for example, if we were going to do that. So then we go, let's look over to the NITRO apps themselves now that I've kind of shown a cursory view, or as much as I can in this short time, of what NITRO is capable of, and hopefully it shows that there's an amazing number of possibilities here, and we haven't even got to how this is done. Now, how it's done is pretty easy, because we have a whole set of apps here. what happens is NITRO Studio is installed as a set of apps in your Office 365 tenancy or your SharePoint farm, and then you can activate it per site. So this site is the customer service site that we're in, the Sticky Glue customer service site. Like I say, it could be help desk or anything else, but this happens to be customer service. And we have all these apps here ready for your use to configure. Now, if we sold you an out-of-the-box program, we would have the configurations done like you're seeing and give you the ability to do this, to manipulate and customize it through these apps available within the application you get. If you want to just get NITRO Studio as it is and start building your own stuff, you can do that easily too. You create a site, you have a list, you put forms on the list, fields on it, put forms on it, put workflows on it, and bada bing, pretty soon you have a whole application going with not really that much effort. And like we said, citizen developer, low code, no code kind of, those cliches that are out there going there. So let's look at the forms designer. Hey, if you're on InfoPath forms or Lotus Notes or anything like that, it's time to move off and go to something like this for sure. That's a whole nother conversation we can have, but it's a very active activity for Crow Canyon. We're moving a lot of people off InfoPath forms and old legacy programs like that, email, spreadsheet. Anyway, here's the forms designer. You can do a lot of things with it. You can design a new ticket, edit ticket, display ticket. Here we see our form with all the tabs. This one is set up so that there is a permission here that shows or hides the account tab based on certain conditions. That's how come we got that dynamic element going. We can set up this as very easily 2 columns. We want to change it to 1. We just change it back to 1. It's back to 1. I happen to like it as 2, so I do it as 2. You can put the labels different places. Easy stuff to do. Now, if you're on this form and you want to go here, and here's all the form controls, what this means, these are the fields on your ticket, your columns on your ticket, and you can just drag and drop it right in, bada bing, like that. And then if you don't like it there, you move it someplace else, move it down here. You want to remove it, you can do that. You want to set permissions on it, you can do that. You can do all kinds of things with this utility, with this forms designer. You go over here, you set up your validations, you can set up your permissions. I know I'm going through this pretty quickly, but hopefully it'll at least excite your interest enough to ask for a NITRO trial or explore it more, look at our information, look at other webinars we've done. Anyway, so going on and on with this, you can go here and go with sections instead of tabs if you like sections. If you don't like the header, you can take off the header. And then you could also come in and put like some extra HTML at the top here, and let's see, and make it so that there is, I don't know, you make it so that you can have a special little like heading for the section there. You can have a header to the section and make them look more like a standard, almost like paper form there or something. So you can put it right there, and then you can put some HTML in here, complaint form or something, You can put them like that and do all the, center it and do all kinds of fun stuff with that and make it larger. And then all of a sudden you have this, let's see, size, let me go here. Apply, and also on complaint forms at the top, for example, that kind of thing. And you could go here and go back to your sections and take that off. I'm just playing with the very basics here, but you see already you can have a complaint form, you can put your logo here, it really becomes this kind of UI, UX, engage users, empower users, and get them using the program on here. So you see, this is just one simple thing I did in just a few seconds to get that up there. On there. So that's all kinds of interesting things you can do with this. Let me go back here to the tabs again. Very easy to use. And when you're done, of course, you just publish it. Here's another part is the actions. If I'm on the display tab, continue without saving. I'm gonna go over to the display form. Here's the display form that comes up when we, ticket exists, we click it, it shows the display. I have this action here. All I have to do is drag it over, have another action. I go here and select one of the actions I created from custom action and put it up there, or I can go in and create a new one, a new custom action, and then have that custom action meaning a set of actions, one or more actions, such as, like I was talking about, issue refund. So that might be an email to customer service with blah, 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 update this ticket, update the status of this ticket, whatever. So all those different actions can take place by just simply pressing the button. And then there's all the advanced capabilities here of lookup, associated item, custom JavaScript, custom CSS, and also user info filler and other ones that are here, signature pads, those kind of things that are available to add to the form. So there's more to this. You can set up different themes and things, but in the short time we have, I'd like to go over and talk a little bit more about the custom actions and the workflow. So custom actions could be launched from here, or you saw here, if I'm here on this one, we can launch custom actions from here and look into that a little bit. And it's going to say, okay, let's do a new custom action and go here and talk about issue, let's say issue a refund, Okay, there it is, and you can decide on the tooltip text. You can change the icon, where it's going to show up. It's going to show up in the list view ribbon, the display form, the NITRO form, where it's going to show up. Do you want confirmation messages? Do you want to continue, auto close? All these things in certain conditions. It'll only show up for certain people or everyone. It'll only show up for certain conditions or all conditions, all kinds of things. Maybe you only want to show up issue refund after it's reached a certain stage or been approved or something like that. So you can say only when certain fields have approved has been required, now we'll show the issue refund button. And then what actions to execute? Well, here it's where it comes in. What are we going to do? Well, we're going to send an email. We're going to update this item. Maybe we create another item in the customer service list. We might invoke another workflow or another action. I mean, there's all kinds of things, and it depends on your workflow. And hopefully you can see that the power of this is quite something. And given that it's a short time, I'm not going to go ahead and create the whole send mail and all that kind of capabilities. Well, I'll just go into it a little bit here. You create, you configure your send mail action. You have action name, send to customer refund department, whatever it is, then from to, you create a template if there's not one already, and then it becomes part of that send mail action when it gets listed here and when the person presses the button. And then you can add the update list item action, that kind of thing. And all kinds of things you can do to make that action happen when a person presses the button. Now the workflows is a similar idea, but these happen by system events. These go by system events or events on, not so much system, but events on the item itself. So here you have an item. Here you have a workflow, and you could say the trigger is when items created, modified, such as status change or closed or updated or priority change. When based on a date time field, it could be whatever, due date or something in there based on a certain list. So you can see that there's a lot of possibilities here. So you might base that on the due date. So here's the due date. You say how many minutes, hours, days after, repeated any number of times, and what actions to take on that. What actions to take, again, a whole list of actions here you can take, and you can create multiple ones. Now the same idea goes for many of the other utilities here. We have advanced approvals, branding, cascade lookup, conditional formatting. We looked at custom actions, email management, email sync. We have the linked items, list role per manager, all these different ones that can make the functionality happen. We looked at reports, the portal. You can look at a report manager where you can create reports and generate new ones. Edit existing ones, that kind of thing. So you can show create a new one and select what site, list, view. Go ahead and create a report. Now, we were trying to keep this to a relatively short 30 minutes or so. I can go on for a few more minutes, but I want to be respectful of people's time and give more of a quick introduction than an in-depth view of all the different utilities here. Hopefully this is raising some questions for people and saying, like, can it do this? Can it do that? Can I see this? And that's the kind of questions we can answer more on an individual aspect of it. But maybe we can look at it. Are there any questions right now? Jocelyn, any questions going on there? I'll put you on. Jocelyn's helping me with this. Any questions there, Jocelyn?
Yes, we've had a few questions, but we've had some great responses. So ultimately, questions have come in about, can we, if we're making changes to the new tickets form, is there a way to clone the change in the edit tickets form? At this point, we're not at that place. We're still going to have to be doing. Go ahead, Scott. You want to answer?
Yeah, well, yeah, I should make it clear that you don't have to use new edit and display for all the different you know, different, you can just do one form for that shows up in new, edit, and display. See, this one just has the same form shows up because it's a very simple form, but it shows up. There's no separate new, edit, display. Now, if I wanted to separate those, I'd go here and say separate the forms, or use the same form. I have this choice right here. And if I want to create a new form, I can also copy from an existing form and make it, well, it's only brand form here, but I could copy that and use that same form. So you do have the choice to go use the same form for new, edit, display, or use separate forms for new, edit, display. And the ticket one, I'm using separate. In this branding list, I'm using the same. So you do have that choice there. And we can go into that in more detail with the exact question you have, but there is that capability to do that.
And then there was one other major question, which was in the past, someone had said that they experienced slower performance with forms and workflows, and can we speak to any improvements in this area if NITRO mitigates any performance issues? Of course, we answered that, but go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, I'll explain.
Yep.
That's a great question, because here is the beauty of the NITRO forms. When you're in the list itself and you're using one of those enhanced list manager tools, we wrote one, a lot of the web parts have it. We had one from the past we used. Every field on this ticket list in normal SharePoint activity is being loaded into memory or into display when you click this right here, if you're not using NITRO forms. If you're using one of those either standard native SharePoint forms or one of those enhanced list forms kind of things, where they're just simply injecting JavaScript to affect the display of the form, but essentially it's information that's generated by SharePoint, then manipulated through that tool to show tabs and whatnot. That is still loading all the data. What we do in NITRO forms is completely different. If you only have one field on here, that's all we load, because what we're doing here from this form is querying the DB, SharePoint DB, in a sense, it's like that, you could say. And we're saying, give us only these fields we need to display on this form here. So if I'm over on the tickets form, well, it's going to get this amount of forms, but it's not necessarily going to get, maybe there's like, double the number of it's only gets these fields in these columns and only the data from those columns. And then you're going to only see, it's going to load faster because you don't have to access every last element of that item, every last control, every last column and field that's in the database. If you have 50 of them, but you only need 25, or 20, or even 5 of them, that's all that loads in our forms according to what you put on here to load. Another thing we do is if you do lookups, we can decide in these lookups how you want to load that information. Delay loading, do not load lookup list information. So we're dealing with that question absolutely of quick form loading, because as we all know, if we're looking at our original picture of the UI UX and power engaged users, important part is how fast things happen and how quickly they load. So yes, the NITRO forms do operate much more quickly than if you've been experienced low slowdowns previously in other forms tools. Okay, I hope that helps. What else, Jocelyn?
Quick question and answer was, is it possible to create different forms based on the same list? Our answer is yes, obviously.
Yeah, you can create as many forms as you want on this list. See, you could have, this one has two forms on it, but you could have more than that for sure. You just go create a new form, and you could copy the form, the ticket form as it exists, into a new form and then adjust it. So say you had like an IT ticketing system or HR something, and you wanted to have like, well, say HR, you had benefits and maybe other inquiries. Well, you just can change the form to have different fields on it. Another way of approaching that same idea is to have a drop list of, say, your category is complaint. Now you're going to show up different tabs or different information here. Even on the same form, you're able to dynamically modify the display of the form. So it kind of depends on what is the best way for you to work there and the best way your application will function, and how users will work with it. So there's a lot of options to do that, especially with the dynamic display based on certain selections, either a choice like this, or radio buttons, or a drop list, or whatever. That change will instantiate, changes like dynamically modify the look of the form, such as showing, not showing different tabs, or different sections and that kind of thing. All right, I think that's pretty obvious, right?
I think that's it for now, Scott. Thanks so much for doing this demo with
Well,
us.
wait a minute. All right. I guess, okay, let me finish up then.
Okay.
Yes. You can go to nitro.studio, and on there is information and also 30-day trial if you're interested. You can also just, if you're not ready to do a trial, contact us and ask more questions. We can also do one-on-one demos, not only for our NITRO Studio, but also for any of the Crow Canyon software applications. And there's plenty of information. We'll send a follow-up on this webinar to anyone who registered, and hopefully you'll be in touch and want to know more and learn about it. Now, we talked about introductory pricing. I do want to cover that. We introduced NITRO Studio back at the SharePoint Conference North America in Las Vegas at the end of May. So it's been 4 months, and we figured we'd let it go through summer. A lot of people on vacation, all that. And then we'll keep our introductory pricing going until September 21st, which is sort of like the end of summer. So if you do get a trial now and get on board, we can keep that introductory pricing, and then after that, it will go up somewhat to our more normal pricing. So if I would encourage anyone who's interested to at least give it a try, take the step right now to download a trial or ask us for information, get engaged, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully this will be something that will power up your SharePoint and Office 365. And I hope this webinar has been useful and helpful for you. And we look forward to hearing back from you with any questions. Thank you very much for coming.